Bună seara și bine ați venit la emisiunea Perspective. Sunt Andra Diaconescu. Astăzi vorbim alături de colegii din Franța, Albania, Serbia, Georgia și Bulgaria despre educație. Vom vedea cum arată fenomenul drogurilor, al bullying-ului și al performanței în școală la nivel paneuropean. Și care sunt soluțiile găsite de fiecare țară în parte sau din partea Uniunii Europene. Good evening and thank you very much for being here with us. Începem discuția cu una dintre cele mai mari provocări pentru școala românească în acest moment, consumul de droguri. O realitate care ne-a izbucnit în față odată cu un desant de controale și care a scos la iveală un secret de care pare că toată lumea știa, dar nimeni nu se încumeta să îl atace. Consumul începe la 13 ani și 20% dintre tineri au încercat droguri cel puțin odată. Acum subiectul se discută în următoarea ședință CSAT, iar în școli polițiștii învață pe profesori cum să identifice un consumator.
Over 1,800 teachers in Brașov have started already to attend this training.
Chiar considerăm că e foarte important și profesorii să fie, pregătiți, să zic, prin cursuri, cum să depisteze un posibil consum.
Dacă avem o suspiciune, ar trebui anunțat Agenția Națională Antidrog, ofițerii acesteia.
Au fost abordate teme de actualitate care au vizat, pe lângă noțiunile utilizate în domeniul drogurilor, principalele categorii de substanțe interzise și efectele acestora, semnele și simptomele consumului de droguri, sistemul de referință destinat persoanelor dependente de droguri din România.
Dacă unui profesor îi se pare că un anumit elev are un comportament suspect, cu ajutorul acestui cartonaș, se numește pupilometru, profesorul poate verifica nivelul normal al pupilei elevului printr-un simplu test și foarte rapid.
E o inițiativă bună, pentru că direcția în care mergem e una tristă, din păcate, și asta se vede. Știri, toate.
V-ați da acordul ca părinte să fie testat copilul dumneavoastră? Da, fără discuție.
Se întâmplă foarte multe probleme și așa că este nevoie. Chiar dacă părinții spun că nu sunt de acord, eu zic că e bine. Pentru că corupția este foarte mare și între elevi și curiozitatea.
In Cluj and Dolj counties, one representative of each school attends online courses about drugs, use and prevention.
La o oră de curs pe săptămână sau două, puțin probabil să putem să apreciem dacă este consumator sau ce durată are prezența substanțelor în viața sa.
The idea of testing students has also sparked a wave of controversy. Several associations, but also officials, have warned that a much better way to stop drug use among young people would be prevention, not testing.
A similar operations with the police took place in Albania this year. Franco Ergo is here with us. Good evening, Franco. Tell me, what did they find?
It is true, Andra. In the middle of September, the Albanian police authorities carried out a significant anti-drug operation. 215 street drug dealers were apprehended as a result. Further, 82 people had arrest warrants for them out and are being currently imprisoned. Inspections were conducted by police officers at 355 locations, practically all of all the major cities and towns of Albania, surrounding schools basically. According to the police director, this operation targeted 23 criminal organizations that were actively involved in trafficking drugs near schools. Cocaine, heroin and cannabis sativa were all seized as a result of this operation codenamed Temple. The rise in drug use among young people has deeply concerned the authorities. The authorities emphasized as well that people are beginning to use drugs at a younger age. age. The increasing usage of synthetic pharmaceuticals is a disturbing trend. The officials declare that the police officers would patrol not only the compounds but also the areas around the schools to stop this tendency. And finally, the penal code, which doubles the penalty for offences committed inside school grounds, will shortly be amended according to an announcement from the Interior Ministry. With these modifications, everybody hopes in this country to better dissuade illegal drug usage and related behaviors around educational institutions, Sandra.
Thank you. Is this the same case in Serbia? Bojan, good evening.
The school year kicked off on the 1st of September in Serbia as always, and after the initial week in which there was reflection and discussion about what happened in this school massacre in May, the first thing after that was so-called initial tests, wave of initial tests in different subjects and topics, and the results were just as disappointing as the PISA tests, which proved that pupils in Serbia learn a lot but know little. So there's an ongoing debate. Why is it so that the children are learning a lot? They're carrying loads of books, 20 kilos of books to school every day. They have many subjects, many classes and lessons, and they still in the initial tests sometimes don't know things like that sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And there's a lot of theories, and there's a debate, why is this so? Why are they underperforming, and what's wrong, what's broken in the education system? And among the reasons most frequently mentioned is that, first of all, 11 different subjects for 12-year-olds may be overwhelming. Maybe the curriculum is too ambitious for them. Second is that at the same time, the teaching methods may be obsolete and outdated because the new generations are digital generations. They are multi-skilled in new technologies, and they learn in a different way. All those books with boring texts, with literature from the 19th century included, may not be interesting enough for them. Also, there is the motivation issue. Like if children see in our society that some people who are influential and very well off were not really very good pupils in school, but did well in their lives, it's not very motivating for them to be hardworking. So probably it's all of these. There is no final conclusion, but the fact remains that in all the testings of different kinds, it turns out that the pupils who are marked with very good marks, excellent students, that actually they underperform when they're asked to deliver, in particular in the tests that require the useful application of theoretical knowledge.
So, Bojan, the main problem you find in your country now in the education system is the results of the learning tests. Let's see a package on this.
On the final exam in their mother tongue, students from Serbia answered half of the questions correctly, and even the best students show worse and worse results in college entrance exams. According to the PISA survey from 2018, every third student in the first grade of high school in Serbia is functionally illiterate. Experts claim that the reason for this lies in the wrong approach to education. Schooling in Serbia is still oriented towards reproducing information and knowledge, and due to the heavy workload and very ambitious programs, students and teachers do not have any space. But we do not have a request from the educational system to do something with that knowledge. Many students in Serbia haven't developed critical thinking, and some lack problem-solving skills. In order to fix things, one should first locate the problem, according to experts. We should see where our educational system misses the opportunity to provide our students with a kind of education that will enable them to make the knowledge they acquire at school really useful for life. The changes that are now being introduced in education are additional physical education classes, a national reading book, and an optional activity of virtue and values that is in focus this year because of the mass murder that happened in May in an elementary school in Belgrade. Some experts think that learning about values can help students develop. The goal is for them to master skills that will help them in life, such as cooperation, volunteering, critical thinking, and assertiveness. The results of the PISA test for 2022 will be available at the beginning of December, and due to the COVID period, it is expected that they will be worse compared to previous years on a global scale.
In France, on the other hand, the education system has become unattractive for the teachers. And this school year started under this main concern. Why is the case? Valerie Goria, good evening.
Good evening, Andra. Well, indeed, the disaffection of teachers was one of the big issues the French education minister said he wanted to address at the beginning of the school term. There's a deep crisis as regards educational careers. Students are no longer attracted by teaching job, and this year more than 3,000 vacancies were not filled. To give you a concrete example, about 20% of posts in mainstream public colleges, high schools were left vacant, and nearly 30% were not provided for in vocational technical colleges and high schools. So the number one reason for this is the level of salaries. Wages range between 1,900 euros for beginners to a little more than 3,000 euros for someone at the end of a, let's say, 30-year career. Now, salaries are a bit higher in schools that are in so-called priority zones, considered more difficult, meaning there are high levels of illiteracy or violence, for instance, and where teachers have a hard time asserting their authority. So basically, the working conditions have become increasingly difficult, and this is a second big reason for which young people find teaching less attractive. So the government has pledged to work on these issues, and it also wants to reassert school values, in particular the principle of secularism. This was the much debated idea behind the new ban in schools of the abaya, which is a long traditional dress worn by some Muslim women, and it was considered a religious sign. Now, it's a big debate, but the debate was quite short-lived at school. Out of 12 million pupils resuming school this year, about 300 girls turned up wearing abayas, and less than a quarter of them refused to take them off and went home.
Thank you, Valerie. And now we're switching to Georgia. Let's see what this country is dealing with.
In the villages and mountainous regions of Georgia, there are schools where only a handful of pupils are enrolled. The reason is internal migration. One such school can be found in the village Kodavardi-Subani of Kareli municipality. For the past 2 years, the school had but one pupil. Now 2 newcomers have joined the first grade, and the total number of students has grown to 3. Classes for the first and third graders are held simultaneously in one combined grade.
The village is experiencing internal migration. That is why there are such few students at this school. People are moving to the city to live and work. The combined grade functions as such. While the first graders are doing a written assignment, the third grader is doing some reading or answering some questions by heart. Most schools with such few pupils have combined grades.
Many schools in Georgian villages do not yet have access to natural gas and the internet. In winter, they use wood stoves to heat up the building, and they connect to the internet with their phones. Transportation is also an issue. Leila Bestavashvili, a teacher at the Kodavardi-Subani school, says she walks 7 kilometers every day to get to class.
I take a minibus to the stop. Then I walk from there. It's about 7 kilometers from the bus stop to the school. I take the same route back. during winter, summer, snow and wind.
Numerous global and local studies show that the quality of education in Georgian villages and mountainous regions falls far behind that of schools in the cities.
The main determining factor of academic success in students is still socio-economic background, given that people living in rural areas are typically more impoverished. This is directly reflected in their educational achievements.
In addition to the small number of students in regional schools, there is also a lack of qualified teachers, or rather of teachers in general. The Education Ministry of Georgia has undertaken numerous programs to remedy the issue, receiving positive feedback from experts in the field. However, despite this, experts say that the steps taken by the state are not enough to achieve tangible results.
Okay, so we're going to Georgia. Elena, good evening. Tell me, what is the solution for Georgian pupils?
Good evening, Andra. Well, for the students in Kodavar-Subani, combined grades have been part of the solution. In addition to this, the Ministry of Education of Georgia has undertaken various programs to help incentivize the flow of qualified teachers to these areas. However, the Ministry of Education, the steps taken by the Ministry of Education have been met with positive feedback from the education experts. They are offering them higher salaries and other various benefits to teach in the rural and mountainous regions. However, the issue of subpar and low quality education is not exclusive to these regions. Students from public and private schools from all over the country, including the largest cities in Georgia, are frequently seeking out private tutorage in addition to their regular schoolwork, and this includes those students who are normally excelling in their respective institutions. This has been a rising trend for many years, and the probability that a student will take on private tutorage also increases with their age. What you would call high school students are frequently seeking out private lessons as they approach the unified national exams. These are the centralized, standardized tests that high school graduates seeking a higher education in Georgia must take. It is a commonly held belief that the state-issued secondary educational program is not in congruence with the subject matter and difficulty of the United National Exams, which is why many feel the need to pursue private tutorage in addition to their regular schoolwork. And this is a nuanced issue. While it is indeed true that private tutors do help students achieve greater academic success, many would argue that the fact that there is such a high demand for these tutors goes against the idea of accessible education for all.
Yeah, this is very interesting, and I think it's an issue that tackles all our Balkan countries, and I will go to Cristiana in Bulgaria in just a bit to tell us how it is there. But please explain to us, how is this system of education in Georgia without high school, because it's unique amongst our countries?
It is indeed true that the secondary educational system in Georgia differs in some ways from that of other countries. Students are not separated in different buildings based on what stage they're at in their secondary education. However, after completing 8 years of secondary education, students have the opportunity to either advance to the 9th grade and potentially pursue higher education at a university, or they have the option to pursue a different path at a vocational or community college where they can pick up a craft in, say, ceramics, beekeeping, gardening, nursery, or any other variety, a whole variety of other disciplines.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you very much, Elena. And Cristiana, good evening. Tell me, how is it in Bulgaria with the private lessons?
Good evening, everybody. In Bulgaria, private lessons have become both old and strange tradition. On the one hand, the Bulgarian education system here is such that sooner or later each student goes to private lessons. In school, children are overloaded with subjects and they often find themselves unnecessary. They get lost between the lines, and the hours here are not enough to focus on what each student is really strong in. On the other hand, according to the Ministry of Education, private lessons are reassurance for parents. Here in Bulgaria, the teacher during the private lesson explains much better, pays individual attention to the student, questions can be asked. The strange thing is that school teachers and private teachers in smaller towns usually are one and the same person. How about the price? The price per hour or hour and a half for a private lesson is between 15 to 50 euro.
Yeah, thank you. About the same price in Romania as well. And it is such a paradox. We all speak about private lessons, but each day at schools, pupils struggle with lessons and heavy backpacks. Here's how it goes.
In Albania, backpacks for 6 to 8-year-olds weigh around 4 to 5 kilograms on average. Children often complain of back pain, but parents do not always manage to understand their reasons.
They usually have one shoulder raised, or when they sit, they do not stand properly. It can turn into scoliosis if it's not diagnosed in time, and can even lead to surgery. School bags must be less than 10% of the child's weight.
To avoid the problems it can cause to children, a proposed solution is the digitalization of lessons. Physical books should be replaced by tablets. But some education experts say that digitalization can have other consequences for children. This, according to them, will reduce the vigilance of children and will have more consequences on their social life. I am not pro these approaches, especially for children from 1st to 5th grades. It is the age when a child needs to socialize, to interact, whether with friends, the teacher, or even his pencil. Children spend time in front of the screens, and the sentences they build are always smaller. The impact of technology wins against both sides. I would see it positively implemented in high school because they know how to manage time. But how possible is it to digitalize schools in Albania? The country does offer full internet coverage and lessons have started in schools, but its spread across the country has a number of problems. We must have teachers prepared, infrastructure at schools and at home. This can happen when all homes have a laptop and internet. So far, there are 100 schools equipped with smart laboratories out of 1,172 basic education schools where children from 6 to 15 years old learn. It is expected that another 200 schools will join in.
On the other hand, there are laboratories in each country where learning is based on technology and pupils are mentally challenged, not physically.
Somewhere in between maths, literature and physics lessons, in these classrooms, first graders will learn robotics. For the first time in Sofia, more than 100 students will enter the world of innovation every day through a new modern center. They will learn to create robots.
Децата ще редят маршрути, ще създават маршрути, сценарии.
The children will line routes, create a scenario by working with the robot Kubo. Kubo is a funny little robot. There's no computer or software here. We program with a puzzle. Go forward, turn left and turn right.
The children won't have electronic devices because it was very important for us to protect their health, especially at this age of 6 and 7.
Kubo will be helping the kids with maths too. If it glows green, the answer is correct.
Here in robotics, not only mathematical and logical thinking is required, creativity is also required. We work in teams. Particular children will be good at making a costume, a scenario, others at constructing an algorithm.
And later on, the kids learn the basic operations of programming, without a heavy backpack and too many books.
Oh, we expect the children to get a wonderful education, to be engaged in education, to enjoy everything that Museico has to offer, and to bring their friends to Museico, their parents, and to have interactive learning experiences. And hopefully it's an infection that will spread around the country and more schools will have these benefits.
The main problem, however, remains the shortage of teachers. There are fewer and fewer who teach information technology. However, the hope that this will change has not yet faded.
Franco and Cristiana, it is obvious that we are facing a gap between old-fashioned learning and new-fashioned learning. What do you make of it? Franco, please be first.
Andra, every morning I carry the bags of my two little daughters. I did precisely the same thing this morning, and I suppose I don't need to visit the gym during the academic year because they are pretty heavy. The weight of a bag for a student that the student may carry is supposed to be no more than 1/10 of a child's weight. However, this doesn't always happen. But there is a discussion, as you said, in this country about using books versus computers for teaching and learning. An experienced teacher told me that because IT gives an intriguing framework for experimenting with new teaching and learning methods, it is progressively taking over. There are 330 schools with smart labs in Albania. IT is a subject taught in the first grade. There is currently one computer for every two students, and this ratio is rising. The instructors deem it a success. Teachers emphasize, Andra, that many courses are simpler for students to understand as a result of IT. Additionally, they have a variety of options for how to teach. A teacher I spoke to claimed that the innovative teaching methods had a positive effect on students who lack motivation. IT as well enables distant students to have access to educational resources without feeling alone or isolated. Books, nonetheless, are not ignored, according to the teachers I spoke with, and they told me they are absolutely essentials in the classroom. So I suppose, Andra, I'll keep getting stronger by carrying the bags of my two little daughters.
Yes, if this is good for her, you are a father, you have to do this. But it's not about this, Cristiana. How about the new ways of learning?
Relatively few schools in Bulgaria benefit from the European programs that offer modernization of the learning process, but there are STEM centers in some schools with innovative teaching methods, modern classrooms and equipment. Information technology and robotics are emphasized because they develop children's logical thinking and social skills. The Ministry of Education offers various European projects in order to break stereotypes, but to be honest, this is a difficult and slow process.
Thank you very much. The main challenge is all over Europe is developing education systems adapted to the world we live in and harmful phenomenon that make it even harder. I have talked about drugs at the beginning, but there is one more to speak about: bullying. Valerie, I get back to you. What is the case in France and all over Europe?
Well, indeed, school bullying has been a very, very hot topic in the past days in France after a 15-year-old boy committed suicide at his home 2 weeks ago. He'd been bullied for months at school and online, had informed the teachers, and nothing was done. His parents alerted the principal, and the academy accused them of calumny. So this caused an outrage. There were several other cases of suicides amongst teenagers in the recent past. One was a 13-year-old girl, Lindsay, who was harassed physically and verbally at school and constantly bullied on social media for over a year, just because girls didn't like the way she looked, she dressed, they mocked her hair, quite insignificant things. And there's also quite a lot of homophobic attack. This was a case of a 13-year-old boy who went through months of this and killed himself as well. So it's not new, but the amplitude, the dimension of it are tremendous because of social media, and it's estimated that 700,000 teenagers are victims of bullying each year, a large part of this online. Now, the government is pledging to fight against this. There is a law, there is a hotline, but it's not enough. There are other laws in other European countries, but still, it's not functioning. And this is also why an Irish woman, Jackie Fox, whose 21-year-old daughter killed herself after enduring 3 years of online and physical bullying, is campaigning with European MPs for a European-wide law punishing cyberbullying specifically, and gender cyberbullying in particular at the European level. She had inspired such a law in her own country. In late August, the EU enforced the so-called Digital Services Act, aiming at forcing large digital platforms to better control their social media content or risk heavy fines. But in the end, many associations and parents and teachers are saying that prevention and sensitization work must be made, is essential. It must be done first and foremost within the schools and the communities.
Thank you, Valerie, and thank you all for being here this evening at Perspectives. This is all for us this evening. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. I'm Andra Diaconescu from Bucharest, Romania. See you soon. La revedere!